I'm Artistic Director of UrbanInk Productions, and I'm here just in the middle of the rehearsals for our Arrivals project. It's the culmination of a long-term project that's taken over a year and a half to establish. I travel around the country doing different workshops that deal with ancestry and drawing on creativity based on connection with ancestors. And this project brings representatives from the workshops across the country to Vancouver to do collective creation, basically based on knowing, understanding our root cultures and our ancestry. They're my collaborators.
I'm Gwen, I'm from Winnipeg. I'm a visual artist and a nurse. I work in performance and video conceptual work. And I was drawn to this project to help me grieve the death of my mom. We were very close. I had the honor of being alone with her when she passed away. And it was coming up to the first year anniversary, but I felt like I had a lot of work to do yet. In this work, I investigated and learned with witnesses to keep me safe, to open my body as a space that my mother's ancestors could occupy and live and breathe. So my mother's mother, who died when she was 1 year old, became present for me through this work.
My name is Chimwemwe, and I'm from Montreal. I'm engaged in this process because it is a wonderful laboratory for tying together all the different mediums that I explore in my own artistic practice. It has brought me a lot of understanding of who I am here today by looking at my family's history. And by the end of this week, we will have something phenomenal. And we are ready to show that to a select audience who will then talk about it to the larger world.
Very cool.
My name is Mayahuel Terozautla. I'm original from Mexico. I've been living in Toronto for 4 years, and I'm an actor, choreographer, and a dancer. I'm part of this project because for me it's been a very interesting process in terms of understanding who I am, in terms of working with my identity as an immigrant in Canada. When I came to Toronto, I didn't know anybody. I didn't speak English. So it's been a real, kind of really deep process of understanding who I am by being in a different culture. An amazing opportunity to find who I am. So working with Diane and working with this specific methodology, it's been a very valuable experience in terms of finding all those answers to those questions that I have. Yeah.
Very cool. Now, you talked about a methodology. What does that entail?
Well, it's a lot of body work, exercises that open the breath spaces in our bodies. The underlying thesis of the work is that there are memories buried in our blood, in our bones, that travel through our cells, and that by opening up these spaces and acknowledging that pain that I've always had in my left side is related to something that may have been handed down to me ancestrally, and that within that pain, breathing into that space, or maybe there's a place of joy in my body that I can breathe into, that there's stories that come popping out, and that those are real sources for creativity. We often hear about work from what you know, And this is really going deeply into that idea of working from what you know. It's about carrying these memories in ourselves. And I mean, in a lot of indigenous and African traditions, there's this idea that ancestors are born into children, many generations, and it's not necessarily a reincarnation, like a state of reincarnation, but it's that energy and life force that continues. There's a continuity. I think we've talked often about some of the things that when there are things that are unresolved, sometimes they get carried in us. Mm-hmm. The sins of the fathers are visited tenfold, you know.
I think about in previous centuries, perhaps even just decades, the idea that DNA carried genetic memory, that our cells carried memory, would have thought to have been crazy. So, though I think that the work that Diane is doing is really, really on the cutting edge of helping us explore different ways of knowing that, I think, in future will be just taken as commonplace. Of course our bodies carry the stories of our ancestors. Of course we can be open to letting them be expressed.
Well, and sometimes I find it difficult to explain what we're doing. And so by default, I narrow it down and say it's a theater laboratory, which it is, of course, but it's not at all. But for me, one important aspect of this, and I was trained in theater, the thespian art, Shakespeare and the Greek tragedies and all of this. For me, one of the important aspects here is that we're looking at performance, which can be a very diluted term, but we're looking at performance from a completely different perspective than the Eurocentric one that I was taught in school, which I appreciate, and I find there are many beautiful things in it. But one of the things growing up in that kind of ideology is that you get, or I had the impression that that was really the foundation and the only route for theater, right? And what I'm learning in this process is that no, our ancestral practices, our own cultural heritages, had many things that can lend to performance and lend to theater, if you want to narrow it into like a crunchy little term, which it's not. So, and so in a way, Diane is revolutionizing the world of performance by introducing and allowing us to go and delve into who we are, to see what that can bring out, a different way of approaching the art of performing.
And adding to that, one of the aspects for me that is really important for this kind of work that we are doing is that it's actually about listening to our own wisdom, because we know what we know, and it's just a matter of open our ears and just listen to that and being yourself. And this methodology is welcoming any kind of practices, cultures, backgrounds, and it's something that I really like about that.
That's great. Very cool.
For me, both my art practice and my nursing practice are completely focused on healing. And I see, and perhaps at a much more emotional level, I see that a lot of our separateness and our scars are unresolved grief. Mm-hmm. And this gives, I think this work gives a chance for us in the present, past, and future to open up ways just to grieve, just to walk through that grief safely. We're always witnessed, we're always protected, and be more whole.
Cool. Very cool. Great. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah,
we really appreciate it.
Thank you.